Right then, lads, welcome back to 99 Sport. My name is Cossy. We're going to be looking at the comments made by Romelu Lukaku on Sky. Everyone has had their verdict. We have not had our verdict. I just gave it a lot of time. I just gave it some time to sink in. It's quite interesting what everyone has said about Romelu Lukaku. Chelsea's season is over because of those comments. I think that is really, really unfair and so ridiculous. But we are going to look at those comments. I think they just reflect what is going on, in the mind of the player. And always it happens, players always keep quiet and you never know what's happening. But Romelu Lukaku actually, in an interview with Sky, came out and, he just expressed some kind of, he was unhappy. He is unhappy at Chelsea, and he said that. And Thomas Tuchel's reaction as well, coming out and saying that the player is actually, creating a lot of unnecessary noise that they do not need as a club at the moment. Interesting. I think it was very interesting from Romelu Lukaku because it was out of the blue. No one expected it. He had just signed from Inter Milan in the summer. It was so flat. No one expected it, and then just happened like boom. Romelu Lukaku is unhappy at Chelsea and is unhappy with the manager. And Thomas Tuchel's comments as well. I think they were a little bit professional because I think he fights off the pressure. He says the players actually calling unnecessary noise around the club. Did he respond in the right way or not? But first, the big question is, why does Romelu Lukaku come out and say these words? Let's look at the interview he made with Sky, and maybe it would create more sense when we look at it, right? So here we are in a 29-minute interview with Sky, Italy, recorded earlier in December. Romelu Lukaku said he was unhappy with the situation at Chelsea, questioning Thomas Tuchel's system and talking up the prospect of returning to Inter while he's still, still playing at a very, very good level. So there was Sky, and of course we're going to be looking at the comments, the comments himself. So in the second part of the interview, released on Friday, Romelu Lukaku said he decided to stay in Italy last summer and would 100% still be there if the club granted him his wish of a new deal in the summer. Said when I was at Inter at the end of the first year, I turned down an offer from Manchester City, which was higher than that of Chelsea's this summer, said Romelu Lukaku. And he said, I did it because I had only been there for a year. It wasn't the right time to leave, and I didn't want to. I wanted to do something good for Inter because I have to say that Inter saved my career to some extent, which is actually true if you think about it. And he says, I was in a deep hole at Manchester United. Things weren't going well. I was a big investment for Inter, but we did great things together. And he said, so the second year after we won the Scudetto, I went to speak with the club's chiefs and asked for a new contract. I did it because I told myself I'm 28 years old. My family feels great in Milan. I still have my flat there. My brother and my son, could come and live there. So. We would all feel comfortable in Milan. But they didn't want to extend my contract. The possibility wasn't there. It was tough for me to accept because in my head, I told myself that I would be able to do a few more years there in Milan. And he says, in my opinion, there are three absolute top clubs in football: Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich. Every player dreams of playing for one of those clubs one day. So I thought if I ever had the possibility, I would sign for a new club. I would sign a new contract with Inter and then go there. So that is Romelu Lukaku, and I think that is that point in that interview is a very big nail in the hearts and chests of Chelsea fans. Because one thing he does in that interview is he just downplays Chelsea as they are not a big club. As simple as that. Yes, he says there is no big club in the UK. There's no big club in the Premier League. Whether that's true or not, because he's played, arguably, he's played for at least two of the biggest brands in football in the world, and two of the biggest brands of football teams in the UK. But he says at the moment, he only sees three big clubs in the world: Real Madrid, Bayern, and Barcelona. And he wanted to go to any of those three if he had left Inter Milan. So Chelsea according to Romelu Lukaku, sorry, you are not a big club. I think that is, if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm devastated. I'm definitely devastated for a player that we've spent 100 million pounds, eagerly to sign in the summer, and then he comes and says, I'm not happy here, and in the first place, I never wanted to be at Chelsea, and I think Chelsea are not even a big club. There are only 3 big clubs in the world. Chelsea are not part of it. What is interesting here is, and I think why these comments are really, really hurting if you're a Chelsea fan, I don't think that they take away Chelsea's season. If there is a reason that Chelsea are not competing for the title, it is absolutely on Thomas Tuchel. It is not on Romelu Lukaku. But what is interesting about these comments, first and foremost for me, is why does he say he never wanted to be at Chelsea in the first place? During his interview, he said if there was a team he was going to return to in the Premier League, that was way back in the summer. He said if there was a club I was going to sign for, it was Chelsea. That means, he was taking a dig at Manchester United because he really didn't do well at United, and then they kicked him out to Inter. I think they were lucky to have such a transfer price of 70 million because he was really, really struggling. But now, this is a lot of contradiction, with the player, and I think I understand now why many Chelsea fans are going to say, Cossy, he's a disgrace. He's an absolute disgrace. He needs to get out. Does he want to leave the club? That's the big question. So this is what he says. But it didn't happen. He didn't actually join any of those 3. So I told myself that there is only one team where I could possibly see myself, and he said that was Chelsea. I wasn't thinking about going there, but at one point in time they came in for me, and so I asked Inter boss Simone Inzaghi to leave. The fact that they didn't try to make me sign a new contract bothered me a bit. It hurt me even. If Inter offered a new contract, I would stay there 100%. That goes without saying. So that means his commitment is 100% at Inter Milan. Chelsea, you have a top striker. You have a very good player in his prime. He's 28. But you do not have his commitment. And look, that means he could care less. Apart from his career, he could care less. And I don't think, he's really under pressure. If you look at, the World Cup in Belgium, he's definitely going to be their striker. I don't see anyone who's going to really, fight for... he's part of the golden generation. And what he is, apart from the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Eden Hazard, he's a little bit younger. So they're going to really need to, rely on him rather than, relying on Eden Hazard and players like that. So I think he's covered. With Belgium, with Chelsea, Timo Werner, and the rate at which he misses chances. Look, Chelsea, it's not a guarantee they could go for a new striker. They could just, pump in 100 million pounds in this in January or in the summer and bring in someone else. But, this is quite, puzzling for Chelsea. Where does he go? Where does it end? Does he go back to Inter? Inter really struggling financially at the moment. They can't give you that, that cushion that you want as Romelu Lukaku. They can't liberate you. They've done it before from Manchester United, but at the moment we know the financial struggles with the clubs in the Serie A and all the amount of money they lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They can't afford 80, 70, 90 million to buy you back. These are ridiculous comments for me, really unprofessional. But then we will get to that point when we react to it. Let's first look at it. And he also says, also the fact that I hadn't won anything in England in 8 years there bothered me a lot. So it was hard to turn down the chance to come back here with the team I have supported since I was a child. So, Chelsea fans, that is something to cling on to. He's a Chelsea fan. His commitment is, it's so puzzling. His commitment is with Inter 100%, but then he supports Chelsea since childhood. Where does he want to play football then? He wants to play for Inter. Where does he... I think it's more like he wants to play for Inter, he wants to be at Inter Milan, and then he wants to watch Chelsea on TV. I think that is the point. I watch Chelsea when they play every weekend, but when it comes to playing football, I definitely want to play for Inter Milan. Wow, that's interesting. So on his comments on Antonio Conte being his mentor, and he said Lukaku has always been vocal about his relationship with Antonio Conte and repeatedly stated that how the Italian tactician helped him develop as a player. Now they are both in London. Lukaku says the motivation of proving himself to his former boss provides him with a fresh motivation to succeed in England. And he said, I speak regularly with Conte, not just about football, but life in general. And then he said, it hurt me when he left Inter. It was one of the toughest moments for me, but I didn't leave because of him. I knew that he could. I knew that we could still win things at Inter with Inzaghi. I think Conte at Spurs could do what he did with Inter in the Serie A, but he also knows that our Chelsea team is really, really strong. I see him as an opponent in the league. I never won. I never won against him, so that's an extra motivation for me, right? So those are the comments from Romelu Lukaku. Quite interesting, quite fascinating. I don't know what Chelsea fans think about them. Just join me in the chat and let me know what you think about that. Because listen, it's intriguing, isn't it? Look, okay, let's break this into three. One, the side that says they are ruthless and brainless. I've seen TalkSport, saying that this is brainless from Romelu Lukaku. I think it is. It is brainless, but there is a point. At one point in time, you've got to think about it. Why does he come out and say, "I'm at this point where I don't need to be, at this club. I'm at this point where, I'm not really happy with the manager." Is it brainless signing? I mean, you have 4 years on your contract. You've not completed a year, and then you come out and speak like this. Yeah, it's brainless. I want to defend him, but I think it's a little bit brainless. It was uncalled for, like Thomas Tuchel, because if you've watched Thomas Tuchel's interview after Romelu Lukaku's comments, he said, I don't know why he says that, but it is totally bringing noise that we do not need at the moment. And he's right. At this point in time, Chelsea are close to 9 points behind Manchester City. And, Chelsea, City, and Liverpool, they're at the same level. They're competing at the same level. So I didn't expect Chelsea actually to be this far behind Manchester City. I didn't expect them, nevertheless, to be 9 points behind City at this point in time. It is New Year's. Yes, it is 20 games to go, around 20 or 19 games to go. So there's a lot of ground to cover. Chelsea can catch up. City can sleep. I mean, today they have a game against Arsenal. That is a big game. If Arsenal can do it as a miracle for Chelsea, they would forever be grateful, and I think they will. I mean, they could get a point against Chelsea, but that's a very, very hard game. But I think, what Chelsea need at the moment is maximum concentration, maximum consensus, maximum agreement, around each and everything, from players, from managers, from staff, from fans. They just need that maximum concentration. For example, I'm going to say, I've been watching Rory, and I really do follow Rory. Chelsea. He's a big Chelsea fan. He works with the kickoff. And what he says is, I've not watched his interview. I've not watched his video yet, but at least I've seen that he's done 2 videos, and one of them is titled, Chelsea, Lukaku needs to leave Chelsea. I think that is extreme as well. That is really, really extreme. It's over the top. I think, they just need to find a way of harnessing either the emptiness in Romelu Lukaku or the feud of or why he's furious, or the feud in Romelu Lukaku and why he made those comments in December, signing in August, making ridiculous comments in December. There is a way. But anyway, let's talk about that in Romelu Lukaku's point of view. Is it true that the manager is actually not fulfilling the expectations of the player? Well, I don't see that. Yes, look, most of Chelsea's goals this season, they've actually come from their midfield and the back line. If you've really noticed that, they've had so many goals from Chilwell. They've had so many goals from Reece James, and they have a couple of goals. They have not had so many from Rudiger and Thiago, but they have had a couple of them. And penalties from Jorginho have been supplements. Mason Mount as well. Kai Havertz this season, you could really wonder what is on. Werner, I think Werner has really stepped up his game, but he's not really giving them the goals. And Romelu Lukaku as well, ever since he signed, he's not been that kind of player that has been reliable. So is it the system that is really affecting Romelu Lukaku? Because we've got to ask ourselves, he was there at Inter Milan, he was rejuvenated, he did it very well. Why the hell isn't he scoring these goals? Why isn't he giving us what we saw at Inter Milan? Maybe it's the system, maybe it's the manager, and maybe the player is right to complain. But what I don't agree with is, why does he then complain about, Thomas Tuchel in the public, in the media? It's stressing. At the moment, I think him, better than any other Chelsea player, he knows what it means to be in a title race. He knows, because he's been there not so long ago with Inter Milan. So he knows, if we are in the title race, we don't need this kind of crap. We don't need this kind of attention that is really, really unnecessary. If we need it, it must be regulated. And what he did is so wrong. It's so wrong in the eyes of football fans. It's so wrong in the eyes of in the manager. Look, if it costs him game time at Chelsea, I won't really be surprised. And if it costs him his career at Chelsea, I won't really be surprised. Again, the boss at Chelsea, we know Thomas Tuchel is a no-nonsense man. We know Roman Abramovich. If he can spend 100 or 200 million in one summer, then he's going to spend 100 million on Dusan Vlahovic or Erling Haaland. And we know Chelsea's priority was not Romelu Lukaku. Their priority was Erling Haaland. It was only the fact that the agent of Erling Haaland, and that is just forgetting his name, that lad. How can Mino Raiola, right? So I think it's Raiola that stood in the way of Chelsea signing in Erling Haaland. I mean the transfer price and things like that. Look, so Chelsea, the perspective that they're losing the title race because of these comments, because of Romelu Lukaku, it's not true. The comments do not mean anything in terms of the title race. Yes, they could hurt the pride of the team, the concentration, and things like that. But I don't think at any point in time Chelsea should be coming out and feeling so sad that this lad is actually, costing them their season. Yes, they brought him as a title winner. They brought him as a game, as a game winner, as a solution to Timo Werner, because Werner is the kind of striker that really, really disappointed last season. It's that kind of player that really disappointed them as Chelsea fans last season. So, to think about it, do they need to get rid of Romelu Lukaku from the starting lineup? No. Do they need to keep pushing and make it work? Absolutely. That is my opinion. But anyway, let me know in the comment sections below what you think about that interview with Romelu Lukaku and where you think he should leave Chelsea. And whether you think Chelsea is not going to win the league because of Romelu Lukaku, I'll be very glad to join you, in the comments, and then we discuss that further. Today, Arsenal take on Manchester City. Make sure you join me on Cossy's Arsenal podcast. We'll be diving into that game after for the match reaction. 6 things we learned, and obviously tomorrow Liverpool will be talking on Chelsea. I'll be dropping the preview for that game today later, and then I'll also be dropping a couple of previews if COVID-19 cases don't increase and games do not get cancelled. See you then.